Mrs. Donna Watson, I have to say before we start, because I am in numerous positions now where I have to say this. This is by no means an endorsement, but gosh darn it, I think it's going to be a good conversation over a cup of coffee. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good today.
One couldn't complain.
Nope, can't complain. And even if you do, nobody's going to listen.
Girl, I know that's right. Shoot, seriously, nobody cares.
Nobody
right?
wants to hear it. Mm-mm.
Donna, I want to get to know you. Okay, we talked on the phone briefly, and you wanted to kind of come on and talk about things. What is it that you're running for?
I'm running to be chairman of the 6th Congressional District for the state party.
Oh, now that's going to be fun. How's it been so far?
It's been interesting. I've met a lot of people that I have not met before because the 6th district was redistricted, last year in the redistricting. The 6th Congressional District used to be made up of a little bit of Cobb, a fair amount of Fulton, and a little bit of DeKalb County. And so I know a fair amount of people in those areas. But then with the redistricting, we are now a teeny bit of Cobb, not as much Fulton, a little bit of Cherokee, a little bit of all the way up in Dawson County, way over in Gwinnett County, and the whole entire county of Forsyth County is now the 6th Congressional District. So those people, the Forsyth people, I knew a couple of them, but not very many, and I didn't know really anybody in Gwinnett or Dawson County. But through this getting out and getting to know people and getting the word out that I'm running to be the chairman, I have met some really, really passionate, fantastic people, some people that are new to the whole political arena, as well as some who've been around for a while.
In my experience, Donna, because, I've done a lot of grassroots stuff, like I've knocked on doors and all that fun stuff. People kind of divulge to you their story, who they are, what they've been through, their life experience. I kind of want to get that from you. I kind of want to know who you are, what your life experience is. Can you start off with how did you grow up?
Well, I'm from a small town in Tennessee. It's called McKenzie, Tennessee. My parents were both from this small town, and my family was poor. I have very poor relatives. My dad and his brother and his best friend were chopping cotton in a cotton field. This is a true story. And it was not their cotton patch. And my dad and his friends, and his brother, they said, we have got to get out of this cotton patch. So they decided they were joining the military, and they had some conversation over which branch they were going to join. And they pretty much flipped a coin on what they joined, and it was the Navy. So all three of them joined the Navy. My dad was 17 years old when he joined, and all three of them stayed in the Navy for 20 plus years. And then when they retired, they all moved back to that same little hometown. And my mother wanted us to move back there because she wanted my brothers and I to know our grandparents, because, being in the military, you move around a lot. So we were never around our grandparents. So when I was 12 is when my dad retired. They bought some land out in the country in that little rural West Tennessee community. And then my dad went to work, because he was still very young when he retired. He was 37, 38 years old. And he went to work for the sheriff's department there where we lived, and he spent 20 years doing that. And so my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and it was very important to her that we be educated, and important to her that we go to church, because my mom was the one who always made us go to church. So my dad went too, but he would just as well probably not gone. But so my mom wanted us to go to college, and my parents, children of all my cousins and all, because my parents were the oldest, both of them were the oldest, and then so their kids are the oldest of my cousins and all. So my mom's kids were the first to go to college, and I think I'm very proud of that. My oldest brother was the first to graduate from college, and then I was the second one. I went to the University of Tennessee, became a nurse, moved to Atlanta in '88, and I was working as an RN in an urgent care center. And one of my good friends, who was also an RN that worked with me, said, Donna, Kennesaw State now has a nurse practitioner program, and I'm going, and I want you to go with me. I was like, I always liked school, so I went. I had 3 kids at the time. My kids were young, and but I still worked. I went to school. The program was designed on a weekend program, so I did that. And my oldest daughter, I remember she was worried about Mama going to college because my neighbors had kids going off to college and they were going off and living in the dormitories and all that. So she's like, Mama, who's going to take care of us when you go to school? But so anyway, I felt like that was a good example for my kids too, because they saw Mama studying, and so they would study too. So we kind of do our work together.
Well, Donna, I love that. First of all, this is a great example, in my opinion, of the importance of family structure. You see how your father, for example, chose a life of service. Right. And it instills something in the family, right? It does. It instills this kind of service mentality. And you see that thematically following you going into nursing. It's like, nursing isn't necessarily just something that you go into as a job. You kind of get called to nursing. My sister's a nurse, right? And she got called into nursing. She loved people so much. She wanted to serve them. And nursing is that job. It's not necessarily the military, but it's another form of service. And it seems that it thematically follows your family all the way through. Now, you find yourself somewhat getting into this political realm, right? But arguably, I'm curious, is it that same sense, of service? Does it kind of come from the same place?
It does come from a lot of the same place. Sometimes some, yeah, some no. But I think that just get involved in my community and then also the overlap of government and public service. They're so connected. So, because what happens in our legislature has so much effect on what happens in your healthcare system. So I feel like, as I get older and get closer to retirement, I don't find myself sitting at home doing nothing. Because I still have a lot of energy, a lot of years left in me that I want to do something that will make a difference for my children and their children. I want them to have good health care. I want them to have safe community to live in, in a free country that's protected. My dad spent all those years, in the Navy protecting our country. He spent all those years in the Sheriff's Department protecting our safety. I've spent a lot of years in healthcare protecting our health, and then so I feel like there's a lot of there's so much overlap in that, and so yeah, I want to continue to serve my community, but I feel like I'm transitioning into serving it in a different capacity.
Well, Donna, with everything that goes into transitioning, right? It's always scary to go into something new. Right. Now, you've arguably done things in grassroots up to this point, right? You've been involved. You've knocked on doors. We've had this conversation. In fact, I think we've knocked on doors together before, I'm pretty sure. But you're putting yourself kind of out there. You're putting yourself in a possible leadership position. Does that intimidate you at all? Does that scare you at all? Have you had any experiences yet where you've had kind of these thoughts? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I have had some of those thoughts, and for example, this last year, I was in the Republican Leadership for Georgia program. And my first day in that program, when I met my classmates and we went around the room introducing ourselves to each other, there were so many just so well-educated, so just really fabulous human beings in my group. There was several attorneys, which I know those are very well educated, very outspoken people. I tend to not be quite as outspoken. They actually even had a part of our orientation was a personality profile, and my profile came back as, it's kind of funny because you could tell the attorneys in the room all had the same profile, and mine was different from them in that I tend to like harmony a little bit better than the attorneys did. The attorneys tended to, really like confrontation and all that. And I tend to thrive a little bit more in the harmonious sphere of things. So I tend to want people to get along and work together. But some of the people in my group, like there was an assistant DA in my group. There were 2 current seated House Georgia legislators in my group. So there was just some really qualified, experienced people in that group. And I thought, how did I end up here? Because, They just seem like they just really got it all together. And then, throughout the program, there was also other people. There was a lady who'd been a school teacher, a principal, there was one who was, had been a hairdresser, just different walks of life, lots of different walks of life. And so, you come to find out and learn that we all have something to contribute to this mission of defending our conservative values. And, we all have a stake in, our economy, our education system, our legislative system, our judicial system. So all those kind of things were represented in that room. I was representing healthcare, but I was also representing being a woman with children and a mom and a grandmom. But I feel like I do have good qualifications. I've got a couple college degrees, so, not to toot my own horn, but I feel like I'm intelligent. And then I do have some leadership background, just even with my job in healthcare. I'm a nurse practitioner. That puts a lot of responsibility on me. I'm responsible for what my nursing staff, my medical assistants, I'm responsible, to make sure that they're doing things that appropriately and getting the right information. I'm responsible for my patients' well-being, and I have to make good decisions about what I'm doing for them. I have to really pay attention and be a good listener to hear what their needs are. They say 80 something percent of diagnosis is what people tell you, is what they actually tell you. You have to be able to analyze data. You have to be able to sort out what's important and what's not important. And a lot of times people think they know what they need and what they want, but they don't always necessarily know what they need. So, it's my job to take in all that information, make good decisions that affect not only my patient, but my staff as well. So,
Donna, that's actually an interesting point that you bring up, and I was actually curious if that was going to come up, because my sister deals with the same thing, right? She has to delegate. She's a very successful nurse over in Savannah. And, a lot of times, you get surrounded by these people and it can be intimidating. It's like, wow, they're so much more qualified than I am. It's like, oh, look at their qualifications, and they're so associated with politics. Typically, of course, you associate lawyers with politicians. But there's something to say about the attractiveness of bringing kind of that outside life experience to a political realm. And I'd like to venture down that road a little bit and kind of probe that, particularly with nursing. I want to try and hone in on how that might be applicable. And I think he talked about it a little bit. But you've had experience with two particular fields in nursing. You've had experience as an RN, registered nurse, and you've had experience as a practitioner. Now, in my side of things, we talk about military, right? That's, to me, you're basically saying, okay, I've got a corporal, and I've got a captain, if you will. Okay, a captain who delegates and a corporal who sees through and follows through. So what I kind of want to do is explore this a little bit. How is it that your experience as an RN, okay, can play into the effectiveness of you being the 6th District Chair? And perhaps even as a nurse practitioner, how can it play into being an effective 6th Chair? Can you talk on that a little bit?
Probably it would fall more under the realm of delegating. So as an RN, I had more things delegated to me. So so I know how to follow directions. I know how to follow orders. I also, when things were delegated to me, just because somebody told me that this is what you need to do, I still was responsible for what I was doing. So if I was being told to do something that was not appropriate or not in the best interest of a patient, or if, you have to learn to question those orders. You still need to know that you're doing the right thing. So just because somebody in a position of authority over you is saying this is what you need to do, that's not always necessarily what you need to do. And you need to know how to question and to be aware of what's right and what's wrong. As a nurse practitioner, I moved more into the role of delegating those orders out. And so as a chairman of a committee, you need to be able to delegate responsibilities out because, like, as a nurse practitioner in a clinic where I see probably 45 patients a day, I can't do all things for that patient. I need to be able to delegate out those responsibilities, and so as a chairman of a committee, you're not a committee of one. You're going to be a committee of several. There's, your vice chairs, your secretaries, your treasurers. It's not a position of one person. You need to be able to recognize the gifts and talents and the skills of everybody on your team and utilize that team in a good way. Kind of just something I kind of like to add to the whole healthcare model, if we're going to talk about that. I also have to answer to people above me. And so, as a chairman of the Six, I will have people in authority over me as well with the state party. And so, you got to be able to listen and work and work with that as well.
So I've got a... Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. The thing that I enjoy doing, Donna, is it's not necessarily, it's like, you'll talk to some people that have been around in politics for a while, and it's like, oh, well, I intend on taking my political expertise and bringing it over here. It's like, well, no. I want to know how things in your life are going to affect the way that you operate in this, political scene, because it's not necessarily just politics entering into politics as much as it is life experience over the years entering into politics, right? And how that's going to shape the person that you are in regard to leadership qualities. And I'm curious, so with you being a nurse practitioner, I think I kind of want to hone in more on that because that sounds more applicable here. I assume that you have to have kind of like that 300,000 foot view of everything that's kind of going on, individuals that need to be taken care of, priorities, nurses that would do best with those, areas of expertise. So given that, what do you see as something the 6th district needs to fix? Is there something that isn't effective that you've observed that you feel like kind of needs to be touched on a little bit?
I do, because the state party as a whole, is made up of the state executive board, the congressional district committees, and then all the county committees, and then the county committees are made up of the grassroots people, your precinct chair. So, it's kind of, if you will, it's kind of a pyramid. And everybody knows in a pyramid scheme, I hate to kind of compare us to a pyramid scheme, but it kind of is a pyramid scheme. You have all those precinct chairs that are your grassroots, and then the county committee is pretty much responsible for training those precinct chairs and getting those people out into their own communities, because that's what it comes down to, is down to the communities. And so I feel like that is the role of the county. The 6th district, I keep saying the 6th because that's the position I'm running for, but the district committees, according, to the rules of the party, the job description of that is a little kind of vague, but it pretty much states that the duties are to support candidates in the district as well as state candidates. I feel like that's an area where we do need to stay focused, because you could get wrapped up in trying to do a little of everything everywhere, where that's not really efficient. So, we don't need to repeat what the counties are doing at their level, and we don't need to repeat what the state party is doing at their level. So we're kind of that in-between level. And supporting candidates, I think the two main things that you could do at a district level to support candidates in your district are, and to me, one of the most important things is fundraising, because everybody knows that it takes money to run for office. And right now, the 6th district, over the past 4 years as I know it, hasn't done anything for fundraising for our candidates. And so I feel like that's an area where we have failed greatly. where I think we can make a difference, because especially now there are 6 counties represented in the 6th congressional district, and if you can coordinate the efforts of all 6 of those counties into some fundraising events, that draw in people from the whole district, we could have some fabulous fundraising events. And I have some ideas already in my head that I want to implement. And then also, I feel like we really failed our party this last election cycle in having forums where we showcased our candidates. This 6th congressional district, we had 9 people that ran for that congressional seat, and they had some opportunities. They had some forums where they got to speak, but none of them were put on by the 6th congressional district committee, which I find that to be totally unacceptable. We should have had some forums, and I feel like going forward, I don't know if the next election cycle, Rich McCormick is our congressman now, and I'm really proud to have a Republican congressman representing me now, because before I went 4 years with a Democrat that did nothing to represent me or my values. Never was responsive to me. I even emailed her a few times and never got a single email back from her. But about legitimate issues, I wasn't just emailing her like to chew her out or anything, or to attack her, but they were legitimate issues that were happening in my community. But so I don't know if he'll have any challenges in the next primary. I don't know. But if he does, then we need to have platforms for that. If he doesn't have, and I'm just using his as an example, but if he doesn't have, we still need to be able to have platforms where the public can get to know who he is or who any of the candidates are, so that we can make good choices. Because if we don't know who's running for office, what their qualifications are, what their values and their goals are, how can we make good informed choices? Because I think that we would have won more races had we had made some better choices on some of our candidates. So that is very important to me. Those are probably the 2 most important things to me, is that we have some platforms for our candidates, and that we do some fundraising to help financially support our candidates. And because one of the things is, if you don't financially support good candidates, we are going to have more bad representation, as we can see that's happening right now with all our Democrat representation, taxing us to death, ruining our economy. So you either pay for it now or you pay for it later. So I just feel like we need to put our money where our mouth is.
Well, Donna, I have to say it has been an incredible time talking, but not only talking, but also kind of getting to know you. Have you enjoyed drinking out of my ego on a cup?
It's a really fantastically cute cup.
By the way, you get to take that home.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, isn't that great? You get to take my face home.
Okay.
Every person that comes on the show, right? My little coffee table talks here. They get a complimentary ego on the cup to take home with them. Isn't that nice? Like, wow. Donna, it's been so nice. I think we've gotten to know you a little bit better. Where are you going to next? What's your next event?
Okay. Well, my next event, is tomorrow. Well, it's tomorrow. Yeah, Saturday. I'm going to be going to the Fulton County Republican Party breakfast, because Fulton County is also in my district. And then for tomorrow afternoon, I'm planning on going to the Cobb County Republican Party. They're having a parliamentary training session. Donna Rowe is teaching that. I think she's an expert in parliamentary procedure. And since I do plan to be the next chairman of the 6th District, I thought I really probably should brush up on my parliamentary procedure. So that's where I'll be tomorrow.
I love it, Donna. And if you could just give a final statement to those that will be voting for you, what would you tell them?
I would be honored to have your vote. And I take it with, I know it's going to be a great responsibility for me to have that, and I will do my best to do a good job.
Excellent. Well, Donna, thank you so much for the talk. Cheers. Have a good one, okay? Absolutely.